Hi, everyone. This is the slightly well-dressed Norman Kochnick here from Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnick. I have yet again esteemed guests on my panel, starting with a very young-looking, pretty Upala.
Was he?
An even younger-looking Simon Willis. And a not-so-young-looking Chris Vernon. Looks pretty old with the moustache.
It's doing daily videos of you, Norman. It's aging me.
So, guys, thank you once again. We're obviously on the eve of what should be a spectacular fourth test in Ahmedabad. It is apparently weather-wise gotten a bit hot and it's a bit slightly more steamier. Having just listened to Virat Kohli's press conference, which was outstanding, I love the way he talked about, again, this whole pitch ball saga. He made it very clear that it was about the bizarre poor batting that concerned him. And they're not concerned whether they've got a World Test Championship or a ODI this or a World Cup coming up. They're trying to approach game by game and do their best every game. And that's quite a sensible thing to say. And I think it had a lot of that value. He's got some specific white-rimmed glasses today. They look very, you should see him. He's got these rather trendy-looking, almost John Lennon-style white-rimmed glasses. It was quite interesting. It was very interesting indeed. Yeah, so, and we're up to the 43rd day of no COVID in Sydney, by the way. No new cases for 43 days. We're about to have the gay and lesbian Mardi Gras on Saturday night with Rita Ora starring. Now, I'm not going, just to make that clear, but the fact is that's going to be a very non-social distancing event. It's going to be huge. So Sydney's bizarrely almost like normal. It really is. There's hardly a mask to be seen anywhere. Only bus drivers are wearing masks. Everyone else is basically not wearing masks. It's quite an eerie situation. If I compare it to both England and America, you guys have to wear masks, don't you? Most
yeah, all the time. Yeah.
Well, it's become almost superfluous here at the moment.
You've got some new bus drivers out there, Norm, I believe, in Sydney these days. Have you seen that?
I saw that.
Couple of international bus drivers in Sydney, eh?
What's that?
You got a couple of international cricketers out there now as bus drivers in Sydney.
Oh, yes. I know what you're referring to. Do tell more.
Well, you got a couple of Sri Lankan boys out there, and a Zimbabwean guy, haven't you? That have emigrated out there, and I saw a little clip on them that they're driving the buses around Sydney. So who knows? You might get on a bus. Yeah.
It's really what's really good about that is they understand getting back to the basics when they go to a new country. They got to start somewhat from scratch, and it's a great development for them. They'll be more appreciative of what they have in the future. You're right.
Well, Randeep is a fantastic bowler, so I'm sure he'll still be playing a decent level of club cricket out there for sure. Because when I was in Sri Lanka, he was still playing first-class cricket.
So I think Randeep has gone to I think he's gone to either Hawkesbury or Campbelltown, the clubs. They generally go to I think it's one of those two. But look, I know there's a great level of cricket in England to play, but playing domestically here in Sydney is, as you know, an amazing level of play. They had Ram McPearson played my Sydney SCG 11 at Coogee Oval on the weekend. It was an amazing game. SCG 11 won, by the way. They beat the Randy Wicks, and Mike Whitney was there. He is the president or chairman of that club. It was great. All right, now Nilakshi's joined us. JDP Bowden. I don't know who JDP Bowden is. Sounds very professional saying name. The fact is that our interaction with our audience has been fantastic. Where our viewership has gone through quite a substantial climb, and that's thanks to you all because you're all providing great input. Chris, you're about 100 miles away from the camera. I don't know why.
Just surveying the scene, that's all. I'm here.
Yeah. And
he's just a bit nervous because there's a few people on the chat that I've noticed pop up. So there's a few Sevenoaks Vine boys on here. So be careful what you say about Sevenoaks Vine.
Well, I sent Norman I sent Norman. Actually, he's in the chat now, Mr. Bowden, who will be well known to Simon, who is
One
probably
of the all-time greats of club cricket, I might add, Norman.
So Norman, he sent me the two book excerpts last night. I think that's from Cricket on the Vine from 1730 to 1850, explaining the first use of the middle stump in cricket. So,
well, I'm going to put them on. I'm going to put them on the so-called community page for you, and I'll love to do it. So, JDP Bowden, what do we call you as a nickname? What's he got? Have you got a nickname? Type in your nickname into
JB.
Yeah.
JB.
Now, he does wear some glasses. You're talking about glasses earlier. This man would have had bright pink glasses if he had the opportunity. No doubt about it.
Well, we might get JB on. Actually, Chris, send JB a link, and in about 15 minutes we'll get him on. Is he dressed?
He's a teacher, so he might be at school. But if
bring the whole class into the picture.
Brilliant.
Actually, that'd be great. Okay, JB, you've got a challenge here. Even if you're in the middle of a classroom, digress to having them watch them in the background. I love that. So
I think there's more difficulties with
safeguarding
in this country. Yeah, you'd have to get every parent to sign off that they'd be allowed to view on. It's probably not as easy as doing that, Norman, I'm afraid.
But I don't think he needs his parents to do it, does he?
No, but kids might.
Yeah. But JB would have spun it on that last Test match wicket. That is for sure. He would have taken a few poles.
And that's saying something.
Well, JB, I'll be putting those posts up on my community page very shortly. And I shouldn't say my community. It really should be ours, because you guys can put whatever you like up there. I've put about 50 photos of Pretty up there lately.
No, you did not.
I did so. Have you looked at my Twitter?
I did not. No.
Have you looked at my Twitter? Have a look at my Twitter.
Not recently.
You have. But there's worse things to post, Norman, isn't there?
Exactly. All right. We were digressing. The reality is that we have an amazing fourth Test. Again, this series has been fantastic. Test cricket's going through a major renaissance, whether it's the one that we just had in Australia, now on to here in India. I still believe the World Test Championship has proven to be something that we're all talking about. It's in the people's backs of their mind, even though they don't admit to it. I think it's a fantastic concept. Debashis and I are going to be there if everything goes to plan. And a number of Pretty might be there. Apana wants to if she's not studying law. We're all going to make an effort to come visit you guys. So, Chris, your chateau, the West Wing, how many bedrooms? 17 bedrooms? Or you just
not enough to host you guys, that's for sure. It's booked in for renovations for the next 3 years, thankfully. So, yeah.
Booked in for renovations? Right. Sounds like an excuse to me. Okay. All right. So now I've tagged this show again around the team selections. I think that's a part of the conversation. And I'll make it clear that the whole discussion on the pitch, despite Michael Vaughan's picks today over what looked like a compost pit where he was pretending to Butler player, that was quite funny. Other than that, I think we all know it's going to be a spinning turning wicket. We all know that it's going to have that favour. England sure as hell have gone into the nets with, Trott, and also now the likes of, who's the other batting coach? We've got the new batting coach.
Marcus Trescothick. I don't think he's out there, is he?
Is he not out there?
I think he might be going out he'll start at the end of this series. Yeah, potentially.
Okay. Well, but he would have been in the rear probably at some stage. Well, Trott and Thorpe are both still there, I'm assuming. They're both pretty good exponents of batting technique. So the reality is they would have been told to play the line of the ball rather than the ball spinning and not to follow the ball, a la Pujara or even Rohit Sharma. And I loved what Rohit Sharma talked about in terms of intent, to actually want to score off every ball. I think that's a vital part of batting against spin. Not overdoing it, but looking to score. Not playing a Johnny Bairstow first ball sweep shot, maybe. Might be something to think about, but I think Bairstow would be better for it as well. So we'll talk about team selections. We'll talk about aspects of what's coming up. I mean, Bumrah is apparently getting married, which is very interesting. And
You know the bride, Norman.
Well, it's a long story. We might do another episode about that one. But that's it. It's an interesting timing. He's not going to play in the ODIs because he's going to get married, which is fair enough.
Would that be down to astrology, Pretty?
Maybe. You know what? Honestly, probably there is always a right time or optimal time for these things, and if it happens to be it, the next few months, so it is.
Isn't that what you call an auspicious time?
Yes. Yeah.
It's very much Sri Lankan as well. They have the same situation. Actually, Chris, when's your auspicious time?
I don't know what auspicious means, so you have to educate me. I'm not very clever, you see. So.
Oh, is that right? I thought you said Australians can't learn or.
I just said that Australians couldn't read or write.
Cool.
You should come to America, London.
I'm going to get Jeff Thompson on to have a chat with you. Bring him back, I think.
As long as he doesn't bowl at me, hopefully I'll be able to hold my own. Yeah. That might be
Jeff's got his own YouTube site now. He's going to start posting his fishing shots, and Doug's doing the same. Even Adam Hollyoak's son is creating one for Adam through my endeavours. It's been really impressive. They're all keen now. So, all right, another backdrop. Australia defeated New Zealand today in the third ODI. It looks like Maxwell got 70 out of 30 balls. Aaron Finch got a 69 or something. And Ashton Agar got 6 wickets. But look, I'm not overly impressed with that because they've lost the first 2 already. They're behind the 8 ball. They may have got the act together a little bit, but I think New Zealand's batting was it Conway? He got runs again, 30 odd, but in a very brisk fashion. So it was a rather interesting match. I mean, Aaron Finch. I think you're going to find that Aaron Finch may well be the Australian Test captain for the Ashes.
Interesting.
Don't think England will be too. I don't see the England setup and everything with his record in Test cricket and everything going on. I don't think they'll be sat there. That won't be giving them too many sleepless nights. Obviously, it might bite me on the arse, but I think that there's more. They'd be worried about other people coming in or playing us for sure.
But you must understand, Aaron Finch. He could well be another Mike Brearley to us, meaning he is very good around the change rooms. He's well respected. He has a lot more respect. He's one of the few that really have a respect level that is worthy of a captain of Australia. And we haven't got much choice. As Ian Chappell said, we haven't got much choice. So we need to bring someone who is in a captaincy role and doing very well. That's if Tim Payne decides not to be. So
I think the strength of Australian cricket, certainly me growing up, they were the best side and possibly the best side ever, with the West Indies of the 80s, slightly before my time. But their strength was they pick their side and then they pick their captain, whereas England often just pick their captain and then pick their side around it. And I completely disagree that there's no choice. That Steve Smith's still playing. You've got other blokes in that side that, the Aussies just have to swallow their pride and give it back to Smith because if they want to win an Ashes, they're going to have to be at the top of their game, and sticking Aaron Finch in at the top of that order with his Test record, unless something miraculous has changed, is only going to benefit England, in my opinion.
Well, okay. Steve Smith will not captain Australia again.
But then that's the Australians potentially. It's like Owen Morgan not picking Hales, is it? It's not budging like on their pride.
It's actually
is that your view, Norman, or is that something that you've been informed?
No, there's been several interviews with Steve Smith since that date, and categorically says he doesn't want to captain Australia again.
Oh,
that's he himself, and there won't be pressure to make him do that. He has declined from that. He wants to consider himself as a batter. It's fairly clear because if he had any decision to actually be captain of Australia, trust me, he would be captain pretty much now.
Yeah,
it's a combination of what took place.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Warner's literally banned from being captain again. That's out of the equation. Steve Smith he had a period of time where he was not able to captain, and that was it for him. He said no more. So it is as official as you can get. Okay, and that's from Steve Smith. And
I've got to say I'm with Chris though, because if Aaron Finch recently hasn't scored any runs. This is his first score for a long time. If you look at his record in the BBL and various other things, so that's with a white ball, with a red ball that in England that moves around a little bit. That could be a challenge, eh?
Oh, absolutely. But we're talking about the upcoming Ashes series in Australia.
Yeah,
that's the priority for us at the moment, and it won't be Marcus Labuschagne. Even the likes of Pat Cummins, who's in the state captaincy role, and not for the 4-day version of the game, but the ODI version, that didn't go down very well, and not in terms of backlash, but just generally, it's not a good fit. Dave Warner has returned to the New South Wales side as of today or tomorrow. He's playing in South Australia after his groin injury. There's been a few interesting movements there. Dave Warner won't captain, of course, but you'll find that Pat Cummins will probably stay as a vice captain, and he won't captain. And pretty strong evidence that they're looking at Aaron Finch very closely.
It's just staggering. I've got his stats here. 34 years old. He'll be based nearly 35 at the Ashes. 5 Test matches, average of 27.
Okay.
You're going to chuck him in an Ashes series at 35 years old, probably to captain one series or captain for 1 year?
He's been captain before, though, right? For the World Cup. He's played 5 tests. That's a massive. That's interesting. That's all I'm saying.
But he's been around the Australian lineup. He's been captain of the shorter versions for quite some time now. Yeah. So I don't necessarily think it's a matter of him not being a captain for Australia in the Test format that you're saying, or the number of games he has played. He's capable of doing that role. And actually, to be very honest with you, he's a very good captain.
I think he would be better than Tim Payne, to be honest.
I think so. I totally agree. I'm pretty strong about this. It's not just me. A number of the other Australian press people have been talking about the same thing, and not just the press, the gallery. There's been no denial of him being placed in that role, whereas there's been a categorical.
Do you think the Australians' weakness at the moment is their batting? Without a doubt, it's where England are going to target. Do you think that Aaron Finch coming in strengthens that or weakens the batting?
In my honest opinion, I think it actually does strengthen it. If you give him a go, 5 tests is not long enough to prove anything at all.
Well, there's a reason he's only played 5 tests, age 35.
But there is an argument, Chris, that says it won't make it any worse.
Exactly.
If he adds value, then that might be the way that they're looking.
Yeah, of course. I get that.
We're not expecting him to be captain for the next 5 years. It probably will be a relatively short time. But if Tim Payne loses the kind of the respect of the room, they're going to have to find someone. And they're pretty much at that point now. Okay? Mm-hmm. They need someone who is a strong leader, and Aaron Finch is a strong leader. Tim Payne has proven not to be a strong leader, even though he's done an admirable job to replace the mess that was left by C. Smith and the likes of Warner and that whole incident. He's done a great job to get him through that transition, but it's time. And it won't be. I mean, Alex Carey, he's got to be a keeper first before he gets in. The reality is, they even tried Travis Head, and he's been dropped altogether. So that's gone. Cummins won't be captain, not in any hurry.
I just think that all this, and in England are going to, the one thing England will be is a pretty settled side. There'll be no debate about the captain. There'll be probably no debate about 10 of the names on the team sheet probably already for the Ashes. There's maybe who a seamer is and who probably is an opening bat. But apart from that side's settled. And all the talk about captaincy, the Aussies team, the press are going to make a massive deal over there because they lost to India at home and all the sledging incident and everything with Langer, his position. So it can't be a good thing for Australia. England, it's got to be a good thing for England going into that series, just mentally and setting up for it. Really,
I think it's going to the series will be dictated by the top 4 of both teams.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Top 4, whoever scores the most runs, because the bowling attacks are pretty similar. Probably Australia got the better spinner, in my view.
On Australian conditions,
sure. Absolutely. So for me, it's going to be an interesting build-up. That is for sure. And
just get back to the captaincy for a moment. Who would you prefer to have as a captain of Australia? Someone that hasn't been a captain at any level, like Pat Cummins. He's barely captain at any level. Labuschagne hasn't captained at all. Travis Head's not even informed to get in the side. Warner and Smith are not going to captain. If Payne's not the captain, You've got to bring someone with experience who has the respect of the room, and Aaron Finch has proven that on a number of occasions, both at state level and at national level with the short format. So that's the reason. It's pretty clear to me. I think it's a very compelling argument, to be really honest. And
it's a good argument. It's making the best out of a bad situation, though, isn't it? It's not,
that's right.
It's not an ideal spot for Australia to be in.
Well, Ian Chappell says it best. What choice have we got? We haven't. And we're not blooding someone who's raw. I mean, if you haven't captained at any level of cricket, come on, Simon, you would agree with me here. If you haven't been a captain at any level of cricket, how the hell are you suddenly a captain of your country?
Well, you could say that about Graham Smith.
It's a tough one.
Graham Smith.
Oh, come on. Graham Smith was captain of South Africa at a very young age.
Yeah, but that's the argument. It's, do you chuck someone in? I think he'd played less than 10 tests when they made him captain, wasn't he, Graham Smith?
But he was a born captain. He was.
Yeah, but I'm sure he's captained at age group level, Chris.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that the argument for chucking someone in who's done it always captain material.
No.
There is precedent there.
No, hang on, make this clear. Graham Smith, captain at all levels of his cricketing career. Mm-hmm. He was a natural born captain. The fact that he was young meant that he was a born captain to be captaining. It wasn't like he come off the street, never captained anyone. Mm-hmm. Labuschagne's never captained anyone. Travis Head apparently has, but he's not informed to stay in. Pat Cummins, I don't believe he's done that either. Okay, as far as I'm aware, there's no evidence of him being captain. He's been thrown in the state captaincy, more of it for New South Wales, which is a little bit ridiculous because Smith's there and a number of players are around him that are going to be dominating the decision making. Okay, but anyway, the reality is Aaron Finch has proven himself at Victoria level. A lot of the Big Bash teams, I believe in the IPL, I'm not sure, but he's been a captain in various formats. He's the man. You watch. In terms of his captaincy, there's none better in terms of what's available. Okay.
I think your message is loud and clear, Norm. I think you want Aaron Finch.
I think Australia needs a captain and not another batsman. So I think he's the guy for you.
Yeah. And I mean, he's Victorian, for God's sake. I'm a New South Wales. We're not going to back him because of that.
So Bill Laurie will be in favour of him then, if he's a Victorian.
All right. So regarding this particular match, the most obvious inclusion into the English side has to be Dominic Bess.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially another spinner. Who's the other fellow? I've seen video and
Amaverdi, I think, Wilco. I think he's out there, isn't he? Is it Parkinson? Is Parkinson there as well? I'm not entirely sure.
They're all there bowling in the nets, that is for sure, yeah.
I don't see them.
Give me
Verdi will be the one.
Verdi.
Highly rated.
Yeah, go on.
From what I've seen, and he had a really good year a couple of years ago in county cricket, and then last couple of years, maybe not slightly quieter. Would that be fair? I think, to be honest, apart from maybe Wilco and coaches or people closer to the game, I think for someone like me who's a keen follower, wouldn't have seen much of him. Not seen a lot. He doesn't play much white ball cricket, and there's not a lot of county cricket on the telly. So he's a bit of an unknown quantity, probably with most fans, I would say.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Explain his bowling.
He's an off spin, right arm off spin. But he's always been in the frame. He's always been a player identified coming through the ranks. It's just taken him a little bit longer to get into the international side for a number of reasons, really. One was fitness. If truth be known, he struggled with his fitness side of things. And therefore Surrey weren't picking him because they had kind of minimum fitness standards for selection at one stage. And then he forced his way in, I think it was kind of last third of the season last year, and came in and got wickets. So to his credit, he's got his head down, he's got himself fit, and he's performed well back end of the season. So, he wouldn't let anyone down at all. That is for sure. If he played. Well,
then there's a good argument that, I mean, there's a bit of talk about Verdi being put in there as well as Bess. Why not? If it's a spinning wicket, why not bring your best spin bowlers into the frame? I mean, I know Richard Black with us yesterday wasn't very happy with the spinning department of English cricket. Jeetan Patel also mentioned him in one of his press conferences, which gave me a bit of a hint. Those press conferences are gems if you listen carefully, because they do slip some comments in there they're probably not supposed to. So I'd say there's a good chance he's in the frame very strongly, which would mean you'd look at, well, Broad's not going to play, I don't think, at this stage. Anderson's, well, he should, but he may not even bowl as well.
I think for Verdi to play, they'd have to play only Stokes as a seamer, right? If I've got that right, and not a chance. So no chance that they play one seamer with Stokes. So it will be Anderson or Wood.
But at the moment you've got Broad and Anderson in, correct?
And Archer, yeah.
And Archer. Well,
so Best comes in for Broad.
Yeah.
So, well, I guess Verdi could come in for Archer, but I don't see it. I don't.
So no, you haven't actually. Okay. So
Wood will play
Archer's
for
not. Is Archer playing? Is the question I'm asking.
Don't know. I think that they'll play Archer.
I think Wood will go in for Archer. I think
I'm not Archer's 100% fit. Watching him bowl in that last Test match, he wasn't consistently bowling pace. I'm a bit concerned about it, if truth be known.
I think Wood's in the team, personally. Again, based on what the press conferences dish out, and the only question is whether Anderson's playing. Best and Wood are in, Archer and Broad are out. That's what I would say for certain. Whether there's a third change is the question. Otherwise, the batting order is not going to be touched.
I think they'll play Anderson. It's the last Test match. He's got toes up after this Test match. He's not going into the one-dayers. So I think they'll play Anderson.
Okay.
And he's had a week and an extra, well, with obviously the 2-day test, he's pretty much bowled 10 overs and hasn't had an extra 3 days recovery, hasn't he? So he should be pretty fresh.
So would you agree with Wood coming in for Archer and Broad being replaced by Bess?
Yeah, I think so.
And batting-wise, they stay the same?
I don't. Crawley stays. I mean, they might, depending on what the wicket looks like, I mean, they might bring Burns back in for Bairstow if they think it might be a bit more seamer-friendly, but that's the only thing I could imagine. I don't think it will happen, but that's the only change I could imagine in that top. I mean, Pope out, I don't know, but I don't see them doing it. I guess you could make an argument. They might think you could bat Bairstow I'm just a bit clutching at straws what they might be thinking. They could bat Bairstow at 6 and put Burns back in at the top and bat Crawley at 3. I don't know. I'm just trying to think what they might potential pop.
The only change is they might swap Bairstow and Pope, from a point of view positions in the order. But
is there any merit? I'd like to see Folkes up the order. I don't know where he goes in, but I mean, I'd certainly like to see him above Pope potentially. I know it doesn't do much good for Pope's confidence, but Pope looks one of our most accomplished players out there.
I think they're going to change very little because really everything went wrong on that test. You've got to give them a second go, considering all I can't see changing. Okay, all right. That's pretty conclusive. I think we generally agree that there's only going to be 2 changes at this point, namely Wood from Archer and obviously Broad best for Broad. Okay. India. Bumrah's not playing the ODIs, and he's not playing this match either, is he? It's official. He's out. He's been ruled out of this match. So they're either going to bring in Siraj or even another spinner.
Or maybe others, maybe.
I think they might. I was thinking about this. If they've got Sharma at the moment, and let's face it, if the pitch is going to spin again like they think it might do, which, if it's the same wicket, say, could they not bring in, if they think Hardik Pandya can bowl 4 or 5 overs or 6 overs a day, they might just bring him in just to be a second option to Sharma. If Seamer's going to bowl 10 overs a day, they might just bring him in to potentially bowl and just to boost the batting, and because they're going to want to play him in the one-dayers in England, I assume they might just bring him in for a game and to have a bat and maybe bowl 4 or 5 overs if needed.
Yeah, the word still hasn't come through whether he's ready to bowl at all, to be really honest.
Yeah, I haven't heard any noise about him. I just keep hearing about Umesh Yadav and Kuldeep Yadav.
I tend to agree with Pretty. I think Umesh Yadav will probably get a Guernsey ahead of Pandya.
He has a great record. And we haven't seen him play recently.
Does that mean that Sharma misses out? They'll rest Ishant if Yadav comes in and Kuldeep comes in for Bumrah. That means that if Umesh plays, I think that Ishant will probably be rested. It makes sense.
It does. But there's something about Pandya that he has. I'll give you an example. Your net sessions show up what's going on, don't they? Pandya's bowled, apparently. I don't think he's picked up a ball. Okay?
He's not playing, trust me.
No, he's not bowling. He's not playing. He's not going to go in a batter because they don't need him to go in as a batter at this point in time. They've got their batting lineup is pretty sound. The other thing is there's evidence of Jadeja training quite heavily, actually.
But he won't be playing. I think he's just getting warmed up.
I'll tell you what, Jadeja was training very hard, and the video footage that I saw through Debashis that he sent me was excellent. He looked at full pelt. So he's not far. He'll probably be back for the shorter version, but he's not far from coming back. So I think India are going to change very little other than Umesh Yadav for Bumrah, and the decision will be whether a Washington Sundar or a Kuldeep Yadav go into the play as well. That's where the changes will be. Akshar Patel will open the bowling. He'll bowl the first over. Why not?
Why not?
First 4 deliveries, he had them 2 for, possibly 3 for. Jesus.
I'm going to predict a flat wicket.
No.
On what basis?
The curators have
flat wicket. That's what I'm going to put it out there.
Notes out already.
India won't want to risk losing, and I know that they won the last test by 10 wickets, but
excuse me, they're going to win either way. But there's been a lot of noise about the curators talking. It's definitely spin friendly. It's not flat.
Okay. And unless they've moved to Adelaide, have they moved to Adelaide since last week or?
You watch this space. It'll go 5 days.
It might.
Okay.
That's different. Yeah.
Oh, but hang on. Where, Simon? I want to unpack. Where did you come up with this?
I'm just throwing it out there, Norm. You
being a Norman.
No,
You're being a Norman, aren't you? I'm surprised Chris didn't go.
I've got your little crystal ball.
4 days minimum. 4 days minimum.
I guess the theory is if India and every country in the world, which England and Australia and South Africa would be guilty of as well. I'm not saying it are guilty of producing home-friendly wickets to suit them, then they're definitely going to be
pitch for both anyway. So it's
Yeah, but there's more.
We're not denying that. I'm just saying that I think the pitch will be easier to bat on.
Yeah. No, I agree. It'll be good for the batters. Yes.
India don't have to win.
And the ball is lighter anyway, so you don't have that.
Absolutely, yeah. The ball is different.
And the time there's no dew and
Be more batter friendly this match is my prediction.
It's similar to the second test, I think, most closely to the second test.
Yeah. Pretty's done her homework. She certainly has done her homework.
I actually haven't, but I
want to know who her insider is because she seems to be right on the button here.
It's more just the
fact that Monty Panesar or Adam Hollyoak.
What about the great Monty at the moment? Then where is he? He's dumped us.
He's in Las Vegas, maybe.
Hang on, Simon. Have you been watching the news? He's all over it. He's actually in India. He's playing for the what's it called? The Road Safety Series.
Yeah, World Series.
They've been kept by Kevin Peterson and Matthew Hogarth's on the side. They're prancing around India. Yeah,
there's a big tournament out there. All the Sri Lankan boys are out there. Plenty of pictures on social media. So looks like they're having. Maybe we can try and get Monty on with a few others.
Well, don't worry. I've been angling for him to bring the whole lot, the Kevin Petersons and the Hogarths in the background. So I'm working on that.
Good.
The partner's been working on it too. We're all trying to get him to do that. So he said very honestly he'll try, which is great. Good. But he's in a but he's been talking about that already to me, and that's what's it called? It's got a bizarre name, Unsomething Road Safety. It's got this really bizarre name. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the name of a company, but
probably
probably sponsor. But Tendulkar's in it, of course, as well. You've got the Bangladesh team are well represented. Good on them. It's for a worthy cause apparently. So good on them. It's well done.
Oh wow.
It's but yeah, it'll be a lot of fun to watch actually too. So yeah.
When is it? Is it
It starts
March?
literally tomorrow, March 5th.
Okay.
The day after. I've actually, if you bother to look at my community page, I have all the dates of all the games on that. If you guys were, with it, looking at my community page, which I'm prolific on now, there's all sorts of things.
You have time to do anything normal, Norman.
There's so much happening in the world, Norman. I can't be bothered.
So I might just show you this page. Here's my community page here. I've got the Virat Kohli video already up there. There's Ashton Agar. We've got the New Zealand team list off the press. I put up there immediately. There's me at Coogee Bay beach this morning.
Cool, in the Speedos.
There's
Chris, there seems to be a number of people want your prediction on the pitch.
And look at this here. You've got this is Michael Vaughan, Damien Martin, and Jonathan Norman, and me stuck in a lift at Lord's for an hour and a half. In the JP Morgan Media Centre.
Wow.
Poor Vaughany.
Very funny.
Christ, poor blokes.
They couldn't have disliked me because they put me on the Vaughan and Toughest show within days on the BBC after that, the Test match special. So obviously, all right. So anyway, the reality is that we have some again. Australia and New Zealand have just had the third of their 5 matches. We've got a test game. What was it? Game Afghanistan versus Zimbabwe. You said, Chris?
Might be finished by now, mightn't it? It's probably finished.
Yeah, I haven't seen
Another
the results
2-day test.
You've also got this particular road safety series. Clearly, the most important is the India and England 4th Test match. We've talked about team selections a little bit, but in terms of the result, it's really important to England, I think, to win this because it'll be a great stamp of approval in their series already. They've already won one match, which Chris said already shows great success. The reality is they win 2. My God, that's huge.
I think England will see it as a pretty successful winter already. They've played 5 test matches in the subcontinent. They've won 3. They're going to have at least, at worst case, a 50% success rate in India. And if they win this last test, it'll be one of the best winter ever for England. It would be a staggering result. I don't think anyone was predicting to win. No one was given the odds to win 1 test, compete in 1 test in India, let alone, dominate the first test and win it comfortably. So, as well as winning Sri Lanka. So, I think that I think you might see a different approach from England. I think you might see a more positive approach to the batting, try and sort of get at Axar Patel a bit more and maybe get at Ashwin a bit more. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Manu John pushing me on my prediction on the pitch. I'm with Simon. I think it'll be flatter. I don't think India will want to risk bringing England spinners into the game. And the last test, although it was complete domination from India, really, it was close. It was a closer test match than the score suggested. India was still bowled out for 140, and on another day and another week, that test match goes the other way, I think. So I don't think India will want to bring England and give England any chance. They want to make sure that there's only 2 possible results, and that's to draw and India win, which they'll be favourites to do, and rightly so.
But hang on, there's a difference between what Simon said, the pitch being flat, and what you said, Chris, saying it's flatter. There's a big difference.
I don't think it'll be 700 for 4, declared played 550 for 5. I think it'll be flatter. I think it'll be a better pitch to bat on. I think you'll see 350, 400 scored. I think it'll be a similar pitch to the first test in Chennai. There you go. I think you'll be able to score runs on it first 2 or 3 days, and then it will disintegrate and break up and bring the spinners in.
But blind Freddie would tell you that it would take longer than 2 days. That's not a hard thing to say. It's not profound enough, Chris. It's going to take longer than 2 days. That's obvious. It's going to take longer than 2 days. They couldn't. I just said it'll be
a 4. I think it'll be a 4.5/day 5 wicket.
Well, let's hope so. Okay, and I'd like to see some big scores made by the batters. I'd like to see Crawley get a big century. That would impress me because he looked absolutely fantastic in that previous match. I'm really looking forward to seeing him on Australian soil. I think he's going to be your best batter other than Root. He's going to be the standout. I'm really looking forward to him.
Well, did you see him when he played club cricket in Sydney?
Yes, and he played particularly well. Yeah, he loved it. As far as I'm aware, and also was it Ollie Pope played really well in Australia as well.
Yeah.
They're ready-made, was it Sam Billings as well? I'm not sure whether you sent Sam.
Sam played, yeah. Sam played for Penrith. Joe Denny played out there.
It's as good as playing in county cricket to get used to England. You play in Sydney, you get your situation sorted very quickly because we've got some damn fast wickets, bouncy pitches, and some very good tracks. So yes, Crawley, Pope was great. He was very impressive here, and I think who was it? Mike Whitney was talking about the fact that he'd taken blokes out, and he was very impressed with a number of them as well. I mean, most of the Island team are connected to Ramick Pearson as well. So it's quite impressive. They come out here and they really give it a good crack and they get big scores. So, I think there's going to be some, Pope, Crawley, even Burns, if he retains his position. He likes Australia. So you've got some talent there. You're going to give us a big shake, I'll tell you. And Ben Foakes should keep.
I'd be very surprised if Bairstow's in the mix come this summer. I don't think his test record is great, and I see him as a horses for courses selection in the subcontinent. We had, obviously yesterday we spoke. I wouldn't be picking Josh Butler, and that's controversial. And I really like Josh Butler. I think he's brilliant, but he's scored 100, and I think you need someone that can be more consistent. I think Ben Foakes can score more consistent runs. He might not win a game like Josh Butler might do occasionally, but I think you'll see Burns and Sibley back in at the top of the order for the test matches here with Crawley at 3, Root 4, Stoke 5, Pope, Foakes. I think that you'll probably see that pretty much every test this year unless they swap Foakes for Butler.
I mean, the fact is, I always thought Butler was a specialist T20 ODI player. I always thought that was his role. So
they like him, probably similar to like you're saying with Finch. I think they see him in that leadership group and as a really good character to have in the dressing room. And he's a good player for spin, hence why he obviously was in this winter. I think that to play Butler and Foakes in the same side, you probably have to get rid of Pope or one of the top 3. And I wouldn't want to see that, and I don't think they should do that. So.
Another thing about Finch, he's been very, very high profile in the press lately. He's been on all sorts of radio shows and stations to the point of, I know he's captain of the game that's going on today, but there's a lot of evidence to say it's Finch here. And that's usually a telling sign. I mean, Cricket Australia are pretty clear at promoting the people they want in terms of the way they promote. So, and Trevor Holmes, who's the chairman of selectors, is pretty keen on him as well. So, there you go. Fairly resounding. All right. We've got plenty of comments here that Pretty Upala, man, she's good looking. That's a fair comment. Very fair. And all around Aaron Finch, of course. In fact, Sabal Biswas has sent about 40 messages about Pretty, so be careful there.
Troll.
No, but the reality is that, again, with the size, who do you think is going to be the standout performer in this match, 4th Test, in the England side? Who's going to stand out?
Batting or bowling?
Well, I said the team, so that includes both.
Pick one.
Jack Leach.
Oh, 2. That's a brilliant selection because if there's anybody in the team that I'm most impressed with his development throughout the series, it's been Jack Leach. I've been very impressed with him.
And Ben Stokes.
Oh, Ben Stokes has been really quiet this series.
Exactly.
Very.
That's why I'm predicting because, you know what type of character he is. He's a big game player. He's feisty. He's up for it. And these sorts of players tend to float, not sink. And I think that he'll be positive. And I think that I could be wrong, but he's there's a performance in him at some point, and I think he might be tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm a little worried about Stokes at the moment, if I'm honest. He's obviously gone through a tough time personally off the field, and sometimes that can just put life in a little bit of perspective for you. So, there's no doubt he'll be trying his best, but I just wonder, how motivated he is at the moment, given everything else that's gone on in his life. So, I think it's a tough time for him.
Can you elaborate?
His dad died.
Father passed away, didn't he? So, he was out there.
While he's been away.
and his father was a big person in his life. So just watching him during the last couple of test matches, he's looked quite chilled, whereas normally he's quite in your face and quite aggressive, whereas he's been quite friendly with everybody, and that might just be where he's at the moment. But that can definitely have an impact on your performance, and someone like Stokes, who's a really competitive animal. It might be once the crowds start to come in again, and one day cricket, that starts to get his juices flowing again. I've just not seen the same fire in his eyes during this test series as previously.
But you've got to give some credit also to India, because I actually think they haven't provoked him. There's been very little bet. They've actually left him maybe out of respect for his father.
Oh, I think Ashwin just got the wood in him, hasn't he? And we've all been there. There's at any level, there's guys in league cricket that I've played against that I turn up and the first thing they say is, I'm gonna knock you off stump over today. And we have bands, you have a beer afterwards, and every time you see someone, you turn up. Warren Lee's one, Wilco, and played a little bit for Kent, always gets me out. And so I think in his head, almost it's, geez, Ashwin's going to probably get me out again. And it's really tough as a batter and as a bowler. Someone like Jack Leach has come through it and got pant out a couple of times, and his confidence will be massive after that first test. So it's obviously been really difficult to bat, and his skill sets probably don't suit. Ben Stokes prefers pace and bounce on the ball. So, but Ashwin's obviously in his head a little bit, and I just think these guys are, as you said, the best players float. You chuck them in the water, they float, they don't sink. So I'm hopeful as a fan that Ben Stokes might stand up and be counted.
Actually, come to think of it, when we played each other in that match a couple of years ago, I think I came on the bowl and you were batting, I think, and you basically refused to face me. Was that right?
Probably. Wouldn't surprise me, Norm.
Exactly. All right, Pretty. What's your take on India's situation for this match?
Not much change in the batting lineup, I think, and I do think that it's a great opportunity for them to make some big scores, and I do see that coming. I don't know who it's going to come from. I think Rohit has a good shot. He's playing so well, but it's time for maybe Kohli Shubman has been playing well too, and this Rishabh Pant as well. So I don't know. It could, and this, I don't know. Between the two innings, there will be a few, people making some good scores. That'll be good for them. Bowling, I think, we spoke about that. It's a bit of a toss-up. I don't know which way they're going to go. I do hope that they get it right. And don't bring in, the wrong, I guess, don't make the wrong change. But I think they're feeling very confident, and the media and just the public in general are extremely confident and positive. It's a great series for them, and I just think it's great for the country. I think it's going to be a great game.
I think it's quite a big test for India. We spoke about earlier this week. I put in our WhatsApp group that since 1st of January 2020, pretty much the whole, take Gill out, only Sharma is averaging over 30, and he averages in the mid-40s. So they've got a big year, India. They're going to England for a test series. They've got the World Test Championship final, 95% chance that they probably make the Test Championship final. Pujara's averaging in the mid-20s. Rahane's the same. Kohli's late 20s for nearly. I know he didn't play much last year, but I think it's a big test match for them to cement places in the side going to England. Shubman Gill looks brilliant, and I think he's going to be fantastic, but he's lacked a score. I know he got 51 tests, but he's going to be aware that the opening batting slot is questionable in Indian side, and you always want to nail it down. You've got KL Rahul breathing around, you've got Agarwal, you've got other really good players who are going to want to get in that side. And I think Rahane, Pujara, I know that he's been stalwart and has been in there, but hasn't quite churned out the big runs that he would want. So I think for a lot of these guys, it's quite a big test match for them to nail their slot for the rest of the year, because in my opinion, it's only going to get harder. You've got New Zealand at Lords in a test match, and then you've got 5 matches in England against the Duke's ball. Batting won't get easier for these guys this year. So it's got to be a chance for them to nail their slot down. And the last thing you want to do is going in test match series in England is have Indian press going, should he be picked? He's not been in great form. He hasn't scored any runs. You want to be 100% confident going in, and I think it's a big game for some of those guys.
Okay, I have a different opinion on that. It's a big test because of the World Test Championship final slot more than anything else. I disagree. I think they've been playing very well. I don't know what games you've been tuning into. I don't think it's going to get harder as it goes on. They're only proving themselves. I mean, you're talking about one of the best test teams on the planet right now, right? So I think this is it. I think moving forward, they're only going to play better, and you'll see great performances and so on. So I don't see like a dwindling in quality or anything like that. Everybody's extremely I think they're very proud of what they've done as a team in Australia as well as this. They will win this, and I think it'll be great when they make it to the final, and then you take it one step at a time. COVID has changed everything, so I just think you must be in the present moment and just sort of gone are the days of long-term kind of projections and so on. Life is changing every moment, right? So, but I think they're in a very good place. They're sitting pretty, I think.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but the stats would suggest that in the last year and a half, those guys haven't scored as many runs as they would be expected to, and that's all I'm saying. And they're going to.
That might be down to the.
I'm not a stats person. Yeah. I mean, with the averages and things like that, I only look at performance and, wins, I guess.
But how many batsmen in this series for India have had a good series? Take Sharma out, they probably would say they've underperformed. Kohli's got 250s. Kohli's got 250s.
It's been a bowler's game so far, though, so you can't blame them. That you could say that with England too, or anybody else who would have played in their place.
We shouldn't forget about Root's double 100 though.
Oh, massively, but what I'm saying is that Indian batsmen in home conditions would say that's where their strength is. And for Kohli to only have 250s, Pujara's got 2 maybe as well. So they would be expected to.
They just wanted to get the job done, I think, because they knew that their bowlers would back them up. So there wasn't that great pressure to make those huge scores for themselves or for that test as such. But the 4th test, I think, will be different. And of course, you have the ODIs and all of that too.
So you're all starting to agree with me. It's going to be a flat pitch with lots of runs. There you go.
Here we go.
No, it's flatter.
Going to be
more not flat.
Batting friendly, but it's still going to turn.
Gill's going to get 100. Kohli's going to get 100.
I hope so. I think so. They could.
I hope Crawley gets 100.
They're in good shape.
Crawley get a big fat 100.
I think it's about time.
They've got a difficult year, India. With Australia, they've ticked one box. They're going to tick this box, and they're probably the 3 hardest test series that they might have in there. Is 2 of them this year? Away to Australia and away to England. So they've ticked one box.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but I would say, and I said to Norman yesterday, I think it's playing England in England is a harder series than Australia for India. I think that will be a bigger achievement if they win here. So they're going to want a settled batting order that's confident going in, because it's going to be tough. Same way it's tough for our batters in India. It's exactly the same challenge, just spun on its head. So they won't want to have any issue. They won't want to go and do we pick Rahane? He's a bit out of form. He'll want to go out and get 100. So he knows full on. I'm batting at 5 at Lords in that first test. No questions asked.
But it's a good problem to have because they have many good players. It's just a matter of getting that right lineup, I think. And it's different conditions in England, so the same team here wouldn't go there.
I don't think that India will fear going to England at all.
Absolutely not. I agree with you. Kidding me? We know. We actually, to be honest, we think we're going to win. The way that just the chatter, what I'm hearing. And that's a possibility.
But you would fancy an international.
It would be this time.
An international side, England would have.
Because I don't think England. This is not their best. This is the weakest I've seen them in a very, very long time. I wouldn't be proud of them if I was English right now. So, if anybody wanted to take that, by the way, my prediction right now, Ashes, do not write Australia off. They will come out. they could win it. I'm getting a really good feel for that, and it's in Australia, right? So, yeah, I would not be too overconfident.
I don't think anyone said we're overconfident.
I'm not over. I mean, I'm not. If I'm being honest with you, I'm not overwhelmed with Australia at the moment. They've gone through a really bizarre period. The way they're playing the short version of the game is quite abysmal. Okay, they did okay today. Maxwell had an on day. It's one on day he has out of 20. He's not a consistent player at all. My concern is if Agar's their leading bowler in this match, is something I think Australia as well. They've rested a whole host of players. Now, I think it was Adam who said this on a previous report, and I think Deep said it yesterday, and I agree. You've got to have your best side of the park every single time. We've got to go away from this thought of resting everybody all the time. There's got to be an element of stability about a team structure, and I believe that very strongly. Hence why England shouldn't change their batting lineup for this match. They've got to show some faith in the blokes they've selected or reselected and give them a go. And Burns may well be back for Ashes, but he does not deserve to get back in. You don't drop a person and then bring him back to test after. There's something really wrong with that. Very wrong with that. Don't you agree, Chris? You don't drop a person and bring him back in. That's a sign of disarray, if you ask me.
I completely agree with everything everyone said. I don't think England are. As a fan, I'm a very optimistic England fan. Australia are favourites to win the Ashes in Australia. I don't think anyone is sitting here going England are going to win it. I think England are just saying that we've got the best chance we've ever had. I wouldn't be. We've spoken about the rotation policy. I don't necessarily agree 100%, but if they're doing it because of mental health and sides being, Mark Wood would have probably earned £200,000 to go to the IPL this year. He pulled out of that to spend time with his family. That's a crazy amount of money that someone has turned down for his own mental well-being. And if England are saying we've got so much cricket this year, and if they've got the analysts and the psychotherapists in there who are saying these boys need a mental rest and to get home to their family, if it is doing them some good, and if that's the reasons behind it, then I don't think anyone can argue with it. Like, if that's really, there's bigger things than cricket. Look at Trescothick, look at Trott. Mental illnesses do happen. I don't believe for a second they're just resting these guys and sending them home because they're tired. They're elite athletes. If there is more mental health benefits from it, then I can't disagree with what they're doing at all. That has to be primary concern. You've got a sport that has one of the highest rates of divorce and suicide in the professional game is cricket. And if they're doing it to look after their boys because there's so much cricket, then I don't think anyone can argue with that. It's frustrating seeing Jimmy not playing the second test because or Bairstow being sent home. But if that's what they're doing it to give them a break and to see their family in England, then I don't see how it can be I don't see how you can argue with it.
Now, Manu John's put together a probable Indian side. I agree with his side, actually. And he's put together a probable England side. He's pretty close to right with that as well, except for Archer's out. So it'll be probably Wood in. So, yeah.
The only worry with Wood is that he's very injury prone and he'll play probably most of the one-dayers, the T20s and then the 2020 World Cup. So he's been someone that they've managed workload. I think he's had 4 or 5 ankle operations, Wilco, hasn't he? And he's changed his action 3 times. He falls apart, and it's frustrating because he's very talented. But they might just have an eye on. Maybe they might give Ollie Stone another go. He didn't do anything wrong in that second.
No, he did well.
They might say, well, Ollie Stone's not going to play in the one-dayers. He's going to go home and play some first-class cricket with a view to maybe playing him in the summer. They might give him another run out because he doesn't deserve not to. And then they'll give Wood the run out in the one-dayers.
There's a fair point from Chirag Singh, and I do agree with him. He says, English team have come out here for decades upon decades, but they seem to have this appearance of being surprised by the pitch in general. And I do agree. I mean, you come in knowing what you're going to get. Not a shock.
Yeah, but it's the same way that Indians of India or Sri Lanka or Pakistan.
They don't complain for once. They're graceful about that.
England side
they're never surprised. And they take full responsibility when they lose. and they revel when they win. That's what I've seen with most other teams when they go overseas to play.
Have you seen anything that doesn't suggest that with the England team at the moment?
Yes. Have you not been watching international news? Maybe I'm not talking about the bad reporting that we're getting out of England. I'm talking about the rest of the world. You should tune in and see what the world is saying.
I'm saying the team. I'm not talking about pundits or journalists. I'm talking about have anyone an English cricket team moaned about the wicket?
which is great, which actually proves the point that the pundits are actually saying, right?
Possibly, and bear in mind that they wouldn't. There is precedent, the Joe Root came out publicly and criticised the pitch in England.
Like Norman said, they let out a few things in press conferences that they shouldn't. But I think they're smarter than that. Nobody is going to buy that argument anyway. We're not blind. So they said that they were outplayed, and that's the truth, and that's great.
They're pretty much strong in saying that. It's a very good point. But I must say, I'm really watching these particular press conference with a lot of intent, because I find that there's a lot being said. And by the way, whenever Priti and Chris go for it against each other, the numbers go up. I don't know how that works, but it's like a barometer. It is true. And
so Norman thinks that the video that we got so many views was because of that. Like, okay,
we got 13,000 views on that one.
It's like Roy Keane and Redknapp the other night on the football. Did you see that one? This what this is like now. Yeah, Jamie Redknapp and Roy Keane. Which one?
This is like Stephen A. Smith. He's like this. Oh, I love Stephen A. Smith. This is an American commentator.
There's a guy called Shivansh Sharma is writing in Japanese. Would you stop writing in Japanese? Is that Japanese?
You can block him, Norm. You did it with Music Harmony.
And Music Harmony. Where's Music Harmony today?
I think in answer to Shirag's question, about England coming abroad, I think the answer is it's hard, and that's why Test cricket is so good. English conditions and pitches, even the big spinning wickets in England that they play on, probably a very different spin. They aren't the same style of spinning wickets they play in India, so it's hard to prepare, and hence why winning away from home in world cricket is very difficult, because you can mirror the conditions as much as you want at home and practice, but going and doing it is a completely different thing. So,
the best example of that is Lords. Lords. I mean, no one can prepare for Lords. You only get that option when you're on the go. The slope of that pitch is you can't practice for that.
No, and exactly, and that's why sides historically struggle overseas, and that's why look at the best sides who have won in Australia or won in India. The two best English sides that I can remember winning away from home was in India in 2012 when it was Cook, Peterson, and they just won an overseas in Australia, and they were at the peak. That side was awesome. And the same side won in Australia the year before, and that was as good a Test side as I can remember, taking out 2005 Ashes at home. But overseas wise, you don't do it unless you are at the peak of your powers.
Well, I mean, you've got to give a lot of credit to Michael Vaughan as well, because he must have mentally got that team in shape. He was a particularly good leader, wasn't he, for that set of games? And Duncan Fletcher, which David Graveney talked about yesterday. I mean, he certainly was there, wasn't he? The 2005 Ashes, and I wasn't probably old enough. I was only in my teens, but they had a bowling attack that complemented each other perfectly. You had Hoggard swing with a new ball. You had Simon Jones, Flintoff, and Harmison, who just ran in at 90 mile an hour reverse swing, and it was. I think Australia were rattled. I don't think they were expecting such a big England side to hit them sort of in the face, especially after losing the first Test. But they found Peterson. He was a bit of a rogue pick at the time. Came out of just whacking it in one-day cricket, and they just had blokes in that side who were up for it. Trescothick and Strauss. You had. But okay, you're forgetting the most. You've mentioned Stokes with the current series. His equivalent then, Flintoff, was the difference.
Yes.
Stokes is 5 times better cricketer than Andrew Flintoff is and was.
Ooh.
By miles. Flintoff, if you look at his stats, did well in series or did well in matches. Consistently, Stokes. I would look at his stats. Flintoff's stats that they don't compare.
I have to agree with you.
Stokes is as close to both of them as we'll get, and he's not in both.
But Flintoff was a better bowler.
And was more charismatic. He was a superstar. People loved him.
Well, Stokes is the same sort of character. He's a cult hero. Look at Headingley. Look at the World Cup. You say Flintoff's a better bowler. I would suggest that the stats suggest that he wasn't. I think they're very similar. Flintoff just turned it on in big games and won games.
Hang on, no. The over that Flintoff bowled to who was it? Who's
Langer and
South
Ponting.
African? Huh?
Callis. What I'm saying is that over a career, their bowling isn't much difference. Flintoff just produced match-winning performance.
Impact. The over that he bowled to Jacques Kallis was the most phenomenal over I've ever seen. He absolutely and Ponting. So I mean, and then Flintoff batted in certain circumstances, with very important matches. He batted really well. I mean, Stokes' match-winning performance against Australia and England is the best I've seen from anyone for a long time. That was phenomenal.
There'd be some people who'd say that's the best innings for England ever, Norman. That's how rated it was.
Stokes, that's not one-off. Stokes has done that 270 off 150 balls in Cape Town. He did it in the World Cup. Stokes does it more consistently. Flintoff bowled well, but if you look at his stat, I bet, and I have no idea, I'm off the cuff, I bet if you looked at their bowling stats, they'd be very similar in Test cricket. I bet there's not much in it at all. Flintoff just had, like Stuart Broad can do, Flintoff had a spell in him that won a Test match, or he did it in that. If you take the 2005 Ashes series out, a lot of Flintoff's career was okay. It wasn't, and I don't know what Wilco thinks, but Flintoff's career.
No, I agree with you, and I've had many a debate with people about it. He was fantastic in that 2005 series. Can't take away from it, and he had fantastic performances. But if you look at his talent, he should have performed better over a longer period of time, and that's what Stokes does. Stokes has done it, with bat and ball. Yes, he's unfortunately had an injury lately, so he hasn't bowled as much. But even when we went to South Africa recently, he changed the game. He won that Test match by coming on and bowling 90 miles an hour and knocking South Africa over. So for me, if you're making comparisons, then Stokes for me is ahead of Flintoff, no doubt about it.
But I wasn't necessarily sitting here saying that Flintoff's better than Stokes. I didn't say that at all. It's more a matter that Flintoff was the most significant person in that 2005 series.
Integral part of that team.
Yeah, I wasn't saying that Flintoff's better than Stokes. I didn't say that. I just talked about that series. So you've taken me out of context. The reality is Ben Stokes, and we keep talking about this, yes, but that impacted me what Flintoff does. What Stokes did in England impacted me. That was by far away the most. But then you have to argue some of the innings that both of them, where he took fifers and hit centuries, that's pretty special too. Horses for courses, different times. They're all three. I still believe the best all-rounders in the world, pound for pound, have been English all-rounders. I mean,
Kallis wasn't bad.
Kallis and both of them has to be considered one of the best. Has to be, without 400 Test wickets. He took,
383.
Yeah, at a ridiculous rate. Took 200 wicket catches in the slips and won matches with scored 100. Basically, won an Ashes series by himself, arguably. Kallis has to be the best. I don't.
But Kallis has an argument. Kallis was a batter that bowled well, but he's known for his batting. His bowling he got a lot of wickets. Yes.
Trust me. He bowled a quick ball. He was probably one of the quickest players I faced. Yeah, I faced them all. Yeah, all of them. They were proper quick.
There's an argument that Kallis, on batting talent alone, is the best ever. You could argue that he's in the same bracket as Tendulkar and Lara comfortably. Averages more than both of them.
That's a fair point.
Averages more than both of them. Played in South Africa a lot, which are seamer-friendly wickets. 45 Test hundreds, Jack Kallis got. 45 Test hundreds.
He was phenomenal. He was phenomenal. Simon, who was the most fearsome bowler you had to face in your career?
There's only one bowler that I thought was going to hurt me, and that was Wasim Akram.
Oh,
really?
He bowled the speed of light at me, and swung it both ways. That was a touring Pakistan toured England. We played them, and they had everyone. Waqar Younis, the lot out, and he was the one. I didn't know which end of the bat to hold that day. That is for sure.
Wow.
Do you think if you asked Wasim Akram who the person he bowled at he was most scared of, do you think he sat there going, yes, that's Simon Willis?
I don't think so. I don't think so. We brought Wasim to Sri Lanka to do some work with our bowlers. So yes, it was an interesting conversation, but excellent knowledge, and his skills were just unbelievable. Just his action was the same, but he could just adapt his wrist position just to change the angle of the seam and the trajectory of the ball. Fantastic talent,
And he's phenomenal. He's got a phenomenal ability to explain the way he does it too.
Yes.
And such a delight to watch. It just the expressions, and I agree with you, Simon. I mean, he looks ferocious on the pitch, and wow, they really churn out such fast bowlers. That team.
Yeah. I think you're products of your environment, aren't you, as people? And their pitches are very, very flat generally, and seam bowlers have to learn how to do something with the ball. So whether that's with their actions or other ways, reverse swing was Pakistan who led the way with that. I can never forget, Wasim and Waqar torturing the England batsmen during the England series here. Graham Hick was getting done reverse swing pretty much every other test match. So very creative. That's the one thing about the subcontinent is, that they're very creative cricketers and very passionate about the game. So that's why, I love going out there and experiencing it, because you can only come back learning things.
Yeah.
Can I just go back to a point about rotation? Do we ever see a time that Wasim or Waqar were rotated out and they didn't bowl together?
Different eras. No 2020 cricket, not as much one-day cricket. Like, it's chalk and cheese.
I think be careful, Chris, because if you're going to use stats, go back and look at how many overs Wasim Akram bowled in his career.
Without doubt.
Because he played every county season for Lancashire, and there's one-day cricket there. You played a lot of county cricket back in those days, on top of your test stuff. And that's the argument that England have always put, was why their bowlers were going bust. And that's why they brought in central contracts, so that those bowlers didn't have to play county cricket so much. I think someone like Wasim and Waqar would have bowled a hell of a lot of overs.
Oh yeah, my point being is that the times have changed with analysts, with food technicians and people studying the game more, and that's why
way too much. But way too much. They've gone the other extreme.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Can I take a step back here for a moment? We talked about Waqar and Wasim. We talk about they bowled fast, but actually, I would argue they still bowled within themselves.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at the way they bowled, they didn't overstretch themselves when they played.
I agree.
They had a rhythm to the way they played. They almost looked like they were conserving something in them when they were bowling. And I think that's the key to a good bowler. Ones that overexert themselves on a regular basis are heading down a path of destruction. You've got to know when to do that. And it shouldn't be overexerting yourself. Jeff Thompson, you would argue, overexerted himself every ball. But if you talk to him carefully, he went away from the game when he didn't play. He went fishing, he played football. He got away from it. So he relaxed himself and was able to come back and do what he did. There's a failure there, that they're not bowling within themselves enough, but still bowling fast.
When I was in Australia, the argument was a lot of the bowlers, I was in there 2010 to sort of 2012 when James Pattinson sort of came in, Ryan Harris, and they kept breaking down, these bowlers. And, they said, why do they keep falling apart in test matches? And it came out that, well, in practice sessions, they bowl 15, 20 balls and then they're done for the day. Then they're going out on the SCG and bowling 25 overs a day and wondering why bodies can't cope. And it's
absolutely. You've got to bowl. You've got to test your body, so when the time comes that your body's able to handle it. You're not supposed to be found out when you're doing that, are you? You're totally right. Over resting or under preparing is my word for it. You come out and you stretch a muscle because you basically haven't let your body experience it. So right. I think Pat Howard. Don't get me started on Pat Howard. He's, oh my God, that's another story. We won't go into that. But that he should never have been involved. He made a mess of things, to be honest with you.
Do you think the late 90s, early 2000s, you could say was the strongest, and it's probably England's weakest part? You know, they weren't good in the 90s, but do you think that in world cricket, that was when, especially bowling, was at its sort of best all round? You know, if you look at every side at that time, look at someone like Mike Atherton, average mid-30s in Test cricket, unbelievable player. But if you look at every side that he would have played against, they all had two unbelievable bowlers. Aussies, Warne and McGrath, South Africa, Donald and Pollock, Walsh and Ambrose, Wasim and Wakar, Vars and Muir-Lithran. You know, even Zimbabwe had like Heath Streak and you know, some decent bowlers. Like, you can literally reel off every Test side, and that at that time had two of the best bowlers of the last 30 years, and must be, as an all-round Test match arena, must have been the strongest bowling.
Simon, Simon, as a high-performance coach, you must be grappling with what I'm saying, because it's true, isn't it? Mm-hmm. There's an extreme that we've gone to with being highly strung and highly tuned to the point you're a Lamborghini, and we all know what happens with Lamborghinis when they usually have engine problems. I mean, I hate to be silly, but it's literally that way.
I think it's gone too far that way, Norman. There's no doubt about it. You know, I've had many a conversation with the sports science and medicine teams, and data thrown in front of you and everything else. But there is an element of cricket, you know, that you've got to trust the players, and you've got to say to you how you're feeling. You know your body. Can you get through this game for us? You know, there's too much reliance on other people making decisions. You know, back in the day, players would have said, "I'm playing. Yeah, I am. I have got this little niggle, but I'm playing." Nowadays, it's you ask the player, and the player will say, "Oh, speak to the physio." You know, well, the physio doesn't know your body. You know your body. Is it aches and pains just through a lot of overs? You know, niggles, as I call them, or are you injured? Because there's a complete difference. And
do you think that's a thing that the players are now? You know, I remember doing an academy session with you, Wilco, back in the day, and I think was it Foles who was at the time was the performance, or he was doing, and he said, well, the physio came in and said, as a professional sportsman, you're probably going to be fully fit, pain-free, 5% of your career. You're always going to be feeling something, and if every time you have something doesn't feel right, you go and sit on the physio bench, you're never going to play. You know, and I think that's probably especially for bowlers. I mean, geez, I mean, how many? Easy being a batter, you know, you can stand at first slip and go out and hit the ball around. But bowlers is physical. James, I think, was it Graham Swan told us a story about James Anderson in the last Test when he off on crutches the day before because the coach was annoyed that they played football. Next morning, had 2 cortisone injections and loaded up on painkillers, strapped up and took a fiver. And a lot of bowlers would say, not feeling it today, coach, and that would be that. But surely that's the difference. Why is Jimmy Anderson so good? Because I bet he's played when he hasn't been 100%, and he's gone through the pain barrier. And these guys, as I said, you very rarely, even as playing league cricket, I play once a week, and you wake up and you feel a bit stiff, but it's a different game, isn't it? It's like,
guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to love you and leave you. It's been a pleasure. We'll catch up soon.
See you at 3 a.m.
Nice to
As
see
always,
you.
we've gone over time, guys. Chris, I've warned you about going over time. I'm going to scold you next time. I'm joking. The reality, there's no time frame here. We go as what we feel like. We've got an audience that's still strong in numbers, and I appreciate Simon going, but he's an incredibly important part of this. So are you both. But final words, tomorrow morning tomorrow before the match, that is, we've got the toss teams and tantrums. Adam probably will be available, I believe. I'm trying to get Monty. And it wouldn't be funny if you had Hogarth and Kevin Peterson in the background. That would be really funny. That's very possible. So we've got Aparna's doing her criminal law exam by Friday, so she's out. So we'll be well and truly packed. I'm sure David Gravely will be back tomorrow. And Deep Desculpt has promised me he'll sneak in when he can. He was fantastic. Did you watch? You both watched. Chris, did you watch?
I watched the first 5 minutes, and I had an appointment. I had to do something. I will continue. I will finish it.
Yeah, it's worth what. Just listen to what he says. I know that your friend turned off at a certain point, Chris, but that's not fair. The fact is, he's.
No, I was only joking. I watch all the videos you do, so I'll catch up for sure.
He's very fair. Anyway, deep. I think he's
very
balanced guy with his analysis.
All right, guys. Are you guys available tomorrow morning? Chris, you are.
I'll be up at 3 a.m. with you, Norman, as long as you promise not to be too rude to me.
I may not start that way, but it may end that way. I can't promise.
It always ends like that, Chris. I think you bring it on people.
It's a term of it's a compliment, isn't it? It's a term of
endearment.
It is, Chris. It is. All right. So we've got a situation here where we've got a test match tomorrow. We pretty much know the sides. I think the toss will be yet again important. But more importantly, the pitch will be a turner. It'll be flatter, but not flat, certainly. All right, guys. Thanks for your time. Both Pretty, Pali, you're absolutely wonderful. And all of your videos are now coming at me, and I'm actually forwarding them through Twitter. So,
okay,
Chris,
thank you.
And Chris, you are brilliant, mate. You are really an important part of this team, except for your hat selection. Everything else is wonderful.
I'll buy and I'll tell you what, we'll make a deal. If I'll make a deal with Preeti, if you like. If India win the series in England, I'll wear an India shirt and hat for the videos after it. And if England win, then you can wear an England shirt.
Okay, I don't have one, but I can get one.
I'll purchase your shirt and ship it.
I'm not a cap person. A hat person, yes, but not a cap person.
I'm sure we can.
Hell no.
Well, I'm waiting for the day what we're gonna do one day. It'll happen that Simon, Chris, both Pretty and me, and probably Aparna and a few others will be all in the same room on a table, and we'll film that. That'll be huge.
I'd have to have some barriers up on my bouncers so that there's no punches thrown or no rugby tackles.
If you stop,
you'll be sitting in the middle of both.
If you speak wisely, nobody is going to poke you. So even because of the ludicrous things you say, that it's like, come on, dude.
I've not said anything too ludicrous, I don't think.
All right, you've both been fantastic. All right, thanks, guys. The numbers are going back up again when you fight. All right, so all right, all the best, guys. This is Norman Kochnek on Eyes on Cricket with Norman Kochnek. Namaste. Our Indian viewers have been fantastic. Our US viewers, our Canadian viewers, Aussie, English, New Zealanders I know of. Vanuatu, we've got a few people there. I think I know who they are.
Yay.
No, actually, if I showed you the actual complete list of countries that are watching, you'd be astounded.
You have to share that with me. I would be so fascinated to know.
There are some
who's watching us.
New Guinea. People in New Guinea are watching it.
Fantastic.
Wow.
Green cricketers over there, I think, aren't they?
I love it.
Yeah. Definitely some unbelievable countries. Like Vanuatu, for some reason, has got a few there. People in South America. There were people in Indonesia, Germany.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. All right, guys. Again, thank you very much. We'll again, tomorrow's session, I'll put up the link for that. But otherwise, and tomorrow night, there'll be a session as well. So thanks, everyone. View, like, and share. Make sure you make comments on our Twitter handles. Just again, our Twitter handles. Mine's at Norm Koch, at Vern158 for Chris, and Pretty is at The Pretty Effect as an EFFECT. All right, guys. Speak soon. Ciao.
See you later.
Okay, ciao.
Cheers, guys.
Bye.
Bye.